Yo creo todo lo que dice.
Fidel Castro was one of the world's most controversial figures, but for one local family, the news of his death hits particularly close to home. Ursula Laura Baudish says that, like many Cuban Americans, she was skeptical at first.
Then we got the news, and then I started listening to Miami, and all the Cubans in Miami are celebrating. Then I say, it is true.
But she says this is an especially emotional experience for her because she was Fidel Castro's neighbor in Cuba.
Yes, I spent 1958 Christmas with Fidel because his group was right next to our farm because he's from my neighborhood. He would not sleep. That man was awake all the time.
That proximity meant she witnessed atrocities she says she will never forget.
He had the whole army right next to us, and they were shooting 24 hours a day. Dead people. It was awful.
She says it forced her family to flee to the United States.
We came in 1962. I mean, it was hard, but we made it.
Baudish says she eventually moved to Rochester and worked at Kodak for 35 years.
This country's been very good to us. This is one thing I can tell you.
Her daughter has married outside the Cuban community, but says she wants to bring some Cuban pride to the next generation.
We try to keep the Cuban culture with books and the language and the food. You know, we really try to uphold some of that. It's not always easy because there's not a lot of access to some of those things, but we try.
Baudish says there are still more questions than answers about Cuba's future, but she is cautiously optimistic that someday she can return for the first time and show her grandchildren the beautiful country she remembers.
They are always asking about Cuba, and I would like them to see Cuba.
Jordan Mazza, Time Warner Cable News.